All right, y'all, we made it to the last video in the series. If you don't know who I am by now, my name is Keith Hayden, and I'm an author who learned how to code in 100 days, and I'm sharing my insights from my 100 days of code journey. If you have not watched the first 4 videos, that's right, there were 4 videos before this one, you should go back and listen to those or watch those because I've got so many good lessons about how I've gone through this journey and how I've gotten to the end of this story where I'm at. So we end the story here just last week, March 2022. I made it to my 100-day goal, and yeah, it felt really good. I ended the last thing that I studied before I finished was regular expressions, and that was great to learn that. And it just felt phenomenal to get to the end, like that I'd actually done it. Because actually, a few weeks before I finished, I was very tempted to not get to the 100 days because I was like, man, I started working on another project and I had started my business up and had all these other, still got the part-time job, still got all these other things going on. And I was like, man, maybe I should just wait to finish this and like until the summer when I know I'm going to have time. Nah, I was like, "No, no, let me finish. Let me get this wrapped up." So, let me share with you the last few lessons that I learned in learning how to code from the last part of the 100 days. And this one I think I mentioned in a previous video, but I'll reiterate it here again. The reason why coding is so hard for maybe you, for a lot of people, is because people rush. You try and rush, you're trying to get it done, you're trying to move on to the next thing, like HTML, CSS, I get it. They're not very sexy. They're not very interesting. And CSS is very difficult and it's a huge subject. You could spend years just learning CSS alone. It makes you just want to move on to the next thing, move directly into JavaScript. You just want to jump to JavaScript. Then you want to jump to a framework so you can just start working on this next thing. Don't do that. You're going to make it harder for yourself and you're going to make it take longer in the long run. So don't do that. Next thing I'll say is go slowly and thoroughly at first, and then go back and look and then refine things. And when I say that, there's a really good article, and I think I need to pull it up from Odin Project that they just put out just a few weeks ago about the best way to really learn how to code, which is just reading thoroughly. I mean, this is a different type of reading, y'all. Like a lot of people will be skimming stuff. You be skimming stuff these days because we're used to reading very quickly, quick look, social media. There's not a lot of reading to be done. Some, you're not reading long form, but when you're learning how to code, this is super technical stuff that it's really easy to get confused about what you need to know and where you're at, and then you're stopping and applying, hopefully doing your coding. So this is kind of a hands-on type reading. This isn't just reading fiction or something like that. Sit back and enjoy the story. You can't be doing that. You don't read passively like that when you're learning how to code, at least in the beginning. You need to really dig in and be able to focus on these things. So just go very slowly at first. And this leads me to my next piece of advice, my next lesson, which is to code along with everything that you see that's a block of code. Y'all, this was a game changer for me. And luckily I read about this early on in my coding journey when I started, but coding along is super helpful. One, because it gives you muscle memory. I mean, you just learn. That's half the battle, right? Well, not half the battle, but it's a big part of it. Knowing what do I type in? Like, how do I make this piece of syntax correct to where it does where I need it to do in my code? That's super important. And when you code along, you're getting that muscle memory out of the way so you can focus on the logic. So you can focus on the big picture of, okay, what do I want to accomplish? Am I trying to do some logic for a game? Am I trying to create just a regular landing page and I need my CSS to hit this certain color at this certain time or whatever? You can focus on that stuff easier when the syntax is just seamless. But the only way to get there, especially when you're starting, is by doing more syntax. And that's why I started going along. So it took longer and trust me, it was a lot more tedious because every freaking block of code, y'all. Like, I'm not joking, that I came across. I typed it in. I typed it in my IDE. I use VS Code. VS Code's awesome. I use VS Code, whatever you use, whether you use Atom or another one, I don't know. There's a ton of them out there. I typed it in. Even if you're just using console, that's fine. Use browser console. That's great to do too. But be intentional, because I had times where I would be coding along and I could feel myself just drifting. Maybe I had something on my mind that day, or I had other things to do, and I just found myself just kind of just like a zombie, just, putting it in. Don't do that. That's when you know you probably need to put it down and rest, or, get refocused and start, like, come back fresh. And that helped me out a lot doing that. And another lesson that I learned is use the Pomodoro Technique. And if you've never heard of the Pomodoro Technique, it's you go hard, you sprint 25 minutes, and then you rest for 5 minutes. You go hard, you work like a lion, you rest like a lion. I like putting it that way, like a lion. You do it that way and you get more out of it, and it's easier to focus in shorter chunks of time than in longer chunks of time. And coming from my military background, I was just used to like 55-minute chunks, and just kind of just model from college and from the military. It's good for some things, but when it comes to, oh man, I always hit that thing when I'm talking. When it comes to learning something new like coding, this Pomodoro technique is very, very useful. So I highly recommend, look it up if you don't know what it is. I highly recommend you research it and try and use it just a little bit. And trust me, you won't want to go back once you start using it. Next lesson is acknowledging your progress. If you have managed to even do this for a month straight, congratulations. This is not easy. This is definitely difficult to show up to learn coding, something that's kind of difficult and time consuming to do, and takes a lot of mental brain power, and you're doing it. You're getting better every time. Maybe you can't create that app just yet, or maybe you don't, smart contracts are a little bit out of your league right now. That's okay. You're learning the building blocks. You're getting better every time. So that's why I say document your progress and go back and look at what you've done every now and then and appreciate how far you've come. And the last lesson that I've learned is don't forget your goal. When I started this, my goal was to become a Web3 developer. I don't really want to work as a Web3 developer, but I just want to like have the capability to be able to work with smart contracts and be able to competently know my way around creating things on a blockchain. That's kind of my end goal. But what's your goal? Is it to get hired? Is it to become a paid web developer or backend engineer or whatever, something in tech? Well, don't forget about that. Is it to just do open source projects and things like that? Keep that in the back of your mind, to where you know why you're showing up every day. You know why you're grinding out all this stuff and why you're putting in all this code and, telling people to go away because you want to focus on doing your code. So don't forget those lessons. I sincerely hope that you've gotten a lot out of this series. I enjoyed making it. I'm so happy that I documented all this stuff so I could bring it to you and present it to you and share it with you and help you on your coding journey. Don't forget to check out my book, Beginner's Guide to Coding and Web3. It's a collection of all my tweets that I tweeted for 4.5 months, asking questions, getting help, getting answers, and eventually interacting with some of the top minds on tech Twitter to be able to answer my questions in coding. Don't forget to check out all the resources in my description of these videos. They're just gold. You'll find my recordings. You'll find things I was thinking as I was learning stuff in real time, y'all. Like, this stuff is super, super valuable. Don't forget to check out my blog posts as well about all things tech, and be on the lookout for me on Twitter, because I'm not done coding, y'all. I'm going to be doing another 100-day challenge. I'm going to be starting up soon after I get these videos out and finish this stuff. And I'm so excited to continue learning how to code and sharing what I learn with you. So if you enjoyed this series, subscribe, like the videos, share them, spread the knowledge with everyone else who wants to learn. Thanks for watching this series, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.